October 1998, Cedar Hollow, Pennsylvania. I was 8 years old when it happened. My family lived in a small farming town where everyone knew each other. And the biggest event of the year was the Harvest Festival at First Baptist Church. The festival was a tradition: hayrides, caramel apples, a pumpkin carving contest, and, most importantly, the corn maze for kids behind the church. The maze wasn't huge, maybe half an acre, but to us, it felt like an endless adventure. That year, though, something was different. The night it happened. It was the 23rd of October, a Friday night, the peak of the festival. The air smelled like woods, smoke, and cinnamon, and the churchyard was lit with strands of orange and yellow lights. My parents were helping set up the pie contest, so my older brother, Jake, was supposed to watch me. But Jake was 13, which meant he ditched me the second we arrived to go hang out with his friends near the bonfire. I didn't mind, I was used to it. Instead, I wandered toward the corn maze, where a small crowd of kids was gathering. Pastor Rick stood at the entrance, dressed in his usual flannel and jeans, handing out flashlights. "All right, kids," he called. "Rules are simple: stick to the path. Don't trample the corn. And if you get lost, just shout. We'll find you." I grabbed a flashlight, the cheap plastic kind with the flickering bulb, and followed a group of kids inside. For the first 10 minutes, it was fun. The stalks were taller than me, rustling in the wind, and the path twisted in confusing loops. Every now and then, someone had tied a scarecrow to a post-stuffed flannel shirts with burlap sack heads, their stitched smiles glowing under the moonlight. Then I heard it, a low, wet crunching sound, like someone biting into an apple. I stopped. The other kids had gone ahead, their laughter fading into the maze. I turned my flashlight toward the sound. Between the stalks, about 10 feet away, stood a scarecrow. Except this one wasn't tied to a post. It was leaning forward, its burlap face tilted toward me, and its mouth, which hadn't been stitched shut like the others, was dripping. I froze. The scarecrow didn't move, but I knew it had been standing straighter a second ago. Then, slowly, it raised one arm, not a stuffed sleeve, but a real hand, pale and bony, fingers curling like it was beckoning me. I stumbled back, my heart hammering. "Hey, kid." A voice behind me. I whirled around. It was Pastor Rick. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." I pointed toward the scarecrow. "That one, it moved." Pastor Rick glanced past me, then chuckled. "Oh, that's just old man Henson's work. He likes making 'em lifelike." I looked back. The scarecrow was tied to the post again, arms stiff at its sides. But its mouth was still open, and the ground beneath it was dark and wet. Pastor Rick put a hand on my shoulder. "Come on, let's get you back to the group." I let him lead me away, but something felt off. His grip was too tight, and his fingers were cold. We turned a corner, and suddenly, the maze felt different, the path narrower, the corn pressing in. The sounds of the festival were gone. "Pastor Rick?" I whispered. "Where are we going?" He didn't answer. Then, ahead of us, I saw another scarecrow. This one was taller, its burlap face peeled back to reveal something wet and glistening underneath. Pastor Rick stopped. "Almost there," he said. His voice didn't sound like his own anymore. I yanked my arm free and ran. Behind me, I heard laughter, not Pastor Rick's, but something deeper, something that rattled like dry corn husks. I sprinted blindly, my flashlight bouncing over the stalks. Then I slammed into someone. "Whoa there, kiddo." I looked up. It was Sheriff Dawson, his brow furrowed. "You okay? You're white as a sheet," I gasped, pointing behind me. "Pastor Rick Heishi, snot." The sheriff frowned. "Pastor Rick's been at the cider stand all night." I turned. At the edge of the maze, near the festival lights, stood the real Pastor Rick, laughing with a group of parents. Then I looked back toward the maze. Deep in the shadows, barely visible, stood the thing that had looked like Pastor Rick. It was watching me, and it was holding a burlap sack. Inside, something squirmed. The sheriff didn't believe me. Neither did my parents. But two kids went missing that night. Megan Ellis and Tyler Boone. They were never found. The official story was that they wandered off, maybe got lost in the woods. But I know what I saw. And every October, when the corn grows tall, I swear I hear laughter in the fields. And the scarecrows? They never have their mouths stitched shut anymore. October 2018, Blackwood High School, Oregon. I should have known something was wrong when we found the first note. It was taped inside my locker on Monday of homecoming week, written in jagged, pencil-scratched letters. "Don't play the game this year." I crumpled it up, assuming it was some dumb prank from the juniors. But then Jake found one too, and Priya, and Luke. All the same message, all in that same uneven handwriting, like someone's fingers had been shaking while they wrote it. We laughed it off. We shouldn't have. The 12th of October, 1:17 a.m. The halls of Blackwood High had never felt so hollow. The six of us moved like ghosts through the darkened school me. Jake, Priya, Luke, Mason, and Dev. Our sneakers squeaked against the waxed floors, the sound too loud in the silence. The only light came from the red exit signs, casting everything in a bloody glow. We split into teams. Me, Priya, and Jake versus Luke, Mason, and Dev. The rules were simple. No phones. If you got caught, you didn't rat out the others. If you heard the janitor's keys jingling, you froze until the sound passed. We'd done this before. We weren't stupid. At least, that's what I told myself. Priya found the left shoe first taped under the sink in the girls' bathroom near the gym. It was small, a size 6. The laces frayed and stained with something dark. "Gross," she muttered, stuffing it into her backpack. Then, as she turned to leave, the faucet turned on by itself. Not a slow drip. A sudden rush of water, ice cold and splashing over the sides of the sink. Priya jumped back, her breath hitching. What the hell? The water kept running, even as she twisted the handle. And then, a whisper from the last stall. "You're not supposed to be here." Priya bolted. Jake found the chalkboard eraser in Mr. Hargrove's room. It was sitting in the center of the desk, perfectly placed, like someone had been waiting for us. When he picked it up, the blackboard behind him screeched. We spun around. A single word had been written across the board in jagged, frantic letters. "Leave." The chalk was still clutched in the tray, dust fresh on the wood. Then we heard the chanting. From the second-floor hallway, a low, rhythmic whisper, like a countdown. 7, 6, 5. Priya's grip on my arm tightened. That's not them. Because we weren't on the second floor. And the voice didn't sound like Luke, Mason, or Dev. It sounded older, gravelly, hungry. We found Luke 10 minutes later. He was in the band room, sitting perfectly still on the conductor's podium. His eyes were wide, unblinking. His mouth hung slightly open, a thin line of drool running down his chin. His hands were folded neatly in his lap, clutching a single item from the scavenger hunt list. A black and white photo of our school. From 1942. "Guys," his voice was hollow, distant. "I don't remember how I got here." Then he lifted his sleeve. Scratched into his forearm, deep enough to bead blood, were 3 numbers. 2 to 4 -7. And beneath them, in smaller, jagged cuts, "They're watching." We ran. No scavenger hunt, no winners, no streaking. We just ran. But as we passed the main office, Jake skidded to a stop. The door's open. It was never open. Inside, the old film projector was running, the reel spinning silently. The flickering image on the wall showed Blackwood High's 1942 homecoming. A group of students stood in a line, smiling. One held a left shoe. One held an eraser. And Ani, a tall boy with slick-back hair, held a photo. The same photo Luke had. Then the film glitched. For half a second, the students' faces twisted, their smiles stretching too wide, their eyes sinking into black pits. And the tall boy turned his head, looked straight at the camera, at us. Then the projector shut off. The room plunged into darkness, and from somewhere deep in the school, we heard it, the jangling of keys, coming closer. Luke didn't come to school Monday or Tuesday. By Wednesday, his mom reported him missing. The cops searched the school. Nothing. But I went back because I remembered rule number 3. The janitor hadn't been there that night. So whose keys had we been hiding from? Last night, I got a text from an unknown number. A single photo. It was Luke standing in the middle of the band room. His eyes were black. His mouth was sewn shut, and written on the chalkboard behind him, in the same jagged letters, "You're next." Then, a second later, another message. Game still on? July 2019, Black River Lodge, Montana. The moment our tires crunched over the gravel driveway, I knew something was wrong. The cabin stood as it always had, a sagging, 2-story structure with pine walls darkened by decades of mountain weather. But the air felt heavier this year, thicker. Like the forest itself was holding its breath. "Jesus, it smells worse than I remember," my sister Emily muttered, wrinkling her nose as we stepped onto the porch. The usual musty odor had taken on a new, metallic edge that made my stomach turn. Derek was already there, leaning against his truck, but he wasn't smiling. His knuckles were white around his beer bottle, his eyes darting toward the tree line every few seconds. "You okay?" I asked. He forced a laugh. "Just tired from the drive. Help me with the coolers?" As we hauled groceries inside, I noticed fresh scratches around the doorframe, deep gouges in the wood that hadn't been there last summer. Something about the way they spiraled made my skin crawl. July 12, 1992. Journal entry. Lisa hasn't slept in 3 days. She keeps whispering about the singers, claims they come every night after midnight. Mark thinks it's just the wind through the pines, but last night I heard it too. Not wind, not animals. Voices harmonizing in the dark, moving closer to the cabin. This morning we found the first symbol carved into the aspen near the outhouse. An inverted V with a circle beneath it. The wood was still weeping sap. Lisa says she's seen it before, in her dreams. The journal entries grew more frantic as I turned the brittle pages. July 13, 1992. Lisa disappeared for 6 hours today. We found her kneeling in the creek bed, her hands raw from digging. She wouldn't tell us why. When we brought her back, she kept repeating, "They want us to hear the whole song." Found another carving behind the woodpile. This one looked like a mouth with too many teeth. July 14, 1992. Lisa's gone. Her bed was empty this morning, no note. Just her nightgown folded neatly at the foot of the bed, stained with something dark. We found her favorite hair ribbon tied around a sapling near the river. The bark beneath it had been peeled away to reveal. The rest of the page was torn out. The singing started our second night. A mournful, wordless harmony drifting through the pines, not from one direction, but from all around us, as if the forest itself had found a voice. Derek bolted upright from where he'd been dozing on the couch. "You hear that?" His voice cracked. "Tell me you fucking hear that." The melody shifted, the voices sliding into dissonance, before resolving in a way that made my teeth ache. Emily started crying silently, tears cutting tracks through her dirt-smudged cheeks. Then the knocking began. 3 slow impacts against the cabin's north wall, then silence, then 3 more. Thump, thump, thump. Dad grabbed his rifle. "Everyone in the basement. Now." July 15, 1992. Journal entry. "They're in the walls. Not mice, not raccoons. I can hear them breathing between the logs, their whispers coming through the cracks. Mark says I'm losing it, but last night I saw fingers, long, pale fingers, probing through the spaces where the chinking has crumbled away. We're leaving at first light. Lisa wouldn't want us to. The page ended in a violent ink smear. The basement smelled of damp earth and something sharper, like spoiled meat. We huddled together as the knocking moved overhead, pacing from room to room. Then Emily gasped, "The journal, there's more." She pointed to writing that hadn't been there before, fresh ink bleeding through the yellowed paper. July 16, 1992, added in different handwriting. We tried to leave. The truck wouldn't start. The phones were dead. The road kept bringing us back here. Mark went into the trees to find help. The singers welcomed him. I can see him sometimes, standing with them at the edge of the clearing. His mouth moves, but no sound comes out. I know what they want now. A full chorus needs many voices. I won't let them take me. Beneath this, a crude drawing of the cabin with X's marking each corner.